morning. We're Maseches Shekalim, Perek Gimel, Mishnah Dalet. In the Mishnah Behira will be page 20. The best way to understand the Mishnah is to go really to the last picture of the Mishnah and work our way backwards. We're going to be looking at page 23 of the Mishnah Behira and the picture on that page, picture 29. We mentioned when we started the Masechta, we learned that on Rosh Chodesh Adar, the announcements were made that Machzis HaShekel must be donated for the purposes of the Beis HaMikdash by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. We also learned that the fact that money was donated, the Machzis HaShekel was collected in cities. They set up the shofaros, the boxes, and they, at some point on the 15th of Adar, they set up the money changing system, and then the 25th of Adar, the money changing system went into the Beis HaMikdash. We learned about that in the first Mishnah. The fact that money was being collected from during this process of Adar doesn't mean that the money got to the Beis HaMikdash by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That we've learned already. It took time. There's money that's coming from up north. The money that's coming from down south. There's money that's coming from outside Eretz Yisrael. Jews that live in Chutz La'aretz also have to give a Machzis HaShekel. So it took time for all the Machzis HaShekel that was collected to actually get to the Beis HaMikdash. The places that were closer to the Beis HaMikdash got their money to the Beis HaMikdash faster than those who were more distant from the Beis HaMikdash. So, without going into exact dates, which we already did some of the dates, we said that the person who does the Trumas Halishka, and that's going to be a word we're going to learn more about this week, Trumas Halishka, the person that went into the treasury room and pulled out Machzis HaShekel, that was called Trumas Halishka. There are only 3 Trumas Halishkas a year, 3 withdrawals a year. 15 days before Pesach, 15 days before Shavuos, and 15 days before Sukkot. When they did the Trumas Halishka, the person went into the treasury room on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and he pulled out withdrawal number 1. Remember, there's a box. The box has an aleph on it, and he goes into the lishka, no shoes, a robe that has no hem, no tefillin, no amulets, nothing that can cause anyone to suspect that maybe he took a couple of Machzis HaShekels and hid it on his body. So he went in there on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and he filled up the first box, and that's, for example, picture 16, page 15 of your Mishnah Behira shows the pile of Machzis HaShekel, and the person who went into the room on Rosh Chodesh Nisan filled up box 1, and that box had an aleph on it. You can see the aleph on page 20, picture 24. There's an aleph on the box. You can see it in page 26, on page 21. There's an aleph on the box. So on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the person went into the treasury room with box aleph, took from the pile enough Machzis HaShekel to fill up the box, came out of the room, and now that's the Machzis HaShekel that's going to be used to buy karbonos for the new year. The new year begins Rosh Chodesh Nisan. You can't use last year's money to buy karbonos. We dealt with the problem last week about if you need to buy new karbonos on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, then they went into the market on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. They bought an animal, yet that animal wasn't checked 4 days in advance for a moment, as we learned needed to be done for a korban tamid. We learned that in Masechta Tamid. So we dealt with that last week. We took care of that. But on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the person went in there, filled up box Aleph with Maseches HaShekel. The problem that we discussed was that every Jew has to have a share in every korban tzibur. So on the very first day of Nisan, in the morning, they're going to bring a korban tamid, which is going to be from the new Maseches HaShekel, and the korban in the afternoon. They will also bring a korban musaf. It's Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And this is going to go on for a while. They're going to be using box 1, box Aleph, and box Aleph only has in it Maseches HaShekels that were collected from the area around Yerushalayim. The people up north, the people down south, the people in Chutz La'aretz have not gotten their Maseches HaShekel to the Beis HaMikdash yet. It's been collected, but it's en route. It's on the highways being brought. So how did these Jews who did not yet get their Maseches HaShekel to the Beis HaMikdash have a share in the korban tamid until their money got there? And the answer is, we learned, that the person who went in there on Rosh Chodesh Nisan did sort of a make-believe. He went in there, and let's say there are 120 Maseches HaShekel that are supposed to be collected. He knows that from last year and the year before, it's going to be about 120 Maseches HaShekel, 120 Jews, Ken Yirbu, 120 Jews. Right now, there's only 60 Maseches HaShekel in the room, because that's the 60 Jews that live in Yerushalayim or around Yerushalayim. Their Maseches HaShekel got there by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So if he were doing a percentage, he would not fill up box number 1. He would take off, let's say, 20 out of the 60 Maseches HaShekel. But he's not going to do that. He's going to do a make-believe. He's going to make believe that the Maseches HaShekel that's in the room really represents all of Klal Yisrael. And then take off a full box Aleph. He's going to fill it up. And it's going to be a make-believe. This is Maseches HaShekel in the name of all the Jewish people, but there's still money en route. Okay, when that money gets here, we're going to put it back into the treasury room, and that money is going to be used like sort of to pay back some of the money that was taken out in box 1. So box 1 is Yerushalayim, quote unquote, money. Box 2 in Yetz Hashem will be from up north and down south. And when we bring that into the room, that's the way that the people up north, down south, will repay the Maseches HaShekel that was used between Pesach and Shavuos to buy korbanos. That's the idea. The problem is, and that's what this mission is going to deal with, is if we look at picture page 15, picture 16, we have a pile of Maseches HaShekel. So they go into the treasury room, and all the Maseches HaShekels that come in until Pesach, they pile them up. On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, they take Maseches HaShekel out of there and they put it in box Aleph. Okay. Comes more money into the Beis HaMikdash. Between Pesach and Shavuos comes money from up north and down south. If they would just now pile it up on top of what was left in the room, then the chances are when they fill up box 2, they may still be filling it up from Yerushalayim people money. And the people who sent their Maseches HaShekel from up north and down south, their Maseches HaShekel again won't get into the box, won't get into box 2 15 days before Shavuos, because all the money's now being mixed up. And then if we continue doing this, when the money comes between Shavuos and Sukkot from people in Chutz La'aretz and we throw it into the room, chances are that money from the third collection of Chutz La'aretz will never get used, because box number 3 will get filled up still from money of collection 2 from up north and down south, or from Yerushalayim. So we want to make sure that everybody somehow had money collected that went into the Beis HaMikdash. So how do we do that? We have to make sure that the first set of money that came in by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, that came in from around Yerushalayim, gets filled up in box 1, and that's it. The next money that's going to come in between Pesach and Shavuos, we want to make sure that goes into box 2. And the money that comes in from Chutz La'oretz and distant places that gets filled up into box 3, we have to make sure that goes into box 3, not money from up north or down south or from Yerushalayim. How do we do that? So let's take a quick look at the last picture of the Mishnah, and then we can learn the Mishnah. It's on page 23 of your Mishnah Behira, and it's picture 29. There's something called katbalot. Katbalot are just animal hides. I imagine like being a tablecloth. So you see the first pile of money, there's an arrow that says Ma'os B'nai Eretz Yisrael. This is money that came in from Yerushalayim and the environs. Okay. Maybe even up north, maybe even down south a little. But this is the money that got there by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That's the first monies. On Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the collector, the person is going to go into the room and he's going to pull out a box, a sa'ah of Maseches HaShekel from that first pile, because pile number 2 and pile number 3 don't exist yet. Imagine looking at picture 20, page 21, picture 26, 25. Take a look at picture 25, please, on page 21. You'll have a pile in the room, only one pile. The person went into the room with boxes. You can see it has an aleph on it. He's filling up the box with Maseches HaShekel, and that's it. Picture 26, at the bottom of page 21. The box aleph is now full, but there's still plenty of Maseches HaShekel left in the room from that first collection that got to the Beis HaMikdash by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. He wants to make sure that when he goes in there 15 days before Shavuos, he doesn't take from that money again. He wants to take from the money that comes in from the next group of Jews. So what does he do? On top of that first money, he puts a katbalot. He puts like a sheet. It's made out of hide. And now that money's covered up. So he's taken out money in box aleph at the bottom of page 21. He's now covered up the leftover money that came in by Rosh Chodesh Nisan with the katbalot. Now if you go to page 22, picture 27, on top of that first hide, he's going to now start putting money that comes in between Pesach and Shavuos. 15 days before Shavuos, he's going to go into the room again with a box that's marked base, look at picture 28, and fill up the second box with a Maseches HaShekel. And where's he going to get that Maseches HaShekel to fill up box base? From what's on top of that sheet, picture 27. The first layer of money was what came in before Rosh Chodesh Nisan. From that, he took off box aleph. He put a sheet on top of it. More money came in before Pesach and Shavuos, and that's on top of the sheet. And then he went in 15 days before Shavuos, picture 28, filled up box bays with what's on top of the first sheet. And now on top of the second collection, he's going to put another sheet. So when the new money comes in from Chutz La'oretz and from distant places, he's going to put the money on top of that. And that you can see in picture 29 on page 23. The lower money is the money that came in by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, box 1, covered up. The money that came in between Pesach and Shavuos, put on top of the first sheet, and 15 days before Shavuos, box base is filled up, put the second sheet on top. The money that comes in between Shavuos and Sukkot, put on top of the second sheet. And 15 days before Sukkot, box Gimel is going to be taken in and filled up. You don't have to cover up the third collection because there are only 3 withdrawals made. Withdrawal number 1 was made from the bottom collection on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The second money on top of sheet number 1 was taken 15 days before Shavuos, and the money on top was taken 15 days before Sukkot. That's it. 3 withdrawals have been made. You don't have to cover up the top of it. There are no more withdrawals being made, and we don't really care anymore if all the monies get mixed up. Those are the 3 Trumos HaLishka. Those are the 3 withdrawals from the Lishka, and now we've guaranteed through this process of separating the collections that box Aleph got filled up from the money of Eretz Yisrael that were close enough to get the money to the Beis HaMikdash by Pesach. Level number 2 is money that comes from countries that are right next to Eretz Yisrael and can get the money to the Beis HaMikdash by Shavuos. And level 3 are from countries where Jews live that are very far from the Beis HaMikdash, and their money didn't get there until sometime between Shavuos and Sukkot. And now with this sheet process, we have made sure that box 1 is going to be filled up from that first collection, box 2 is going to be filled up from the second collection, box 3 will be filled up from the third collection, and therefore, in fact, by doing this process, every single collection from every place that Maseches Shekel is collected, a box has been taken off, and every Jew has a chelik in the Maseches Shekel. So that's what the Mishnah explains now. The Mishnah says on page 20, Toram es harishoina, the person went in to the treasury room and took the first truma of Maseches Shekel into the box Aleph, which holds a sa'ah, big tavlaot, and he covered it up with like sheets to separate the different collections. Shniya, he goes in for the second withdrawal, which is 15 days before Shavuos, and now there's money on top of the first sheet. There's money that came in between Pesach and Shavuos. 15 days before Shavuos, he pulls off from top of the sheet, fills up box bays, big tablaot, and he covers up that collection, the second collection, with hides, sheets. Shlishis, then 15 days before Sukkot, he goes in and pulls out the third collection, fills up box Gimel, Lahoya. And he didn't cover up the third collection because there's not going to be any more withdrawals. The whole purpose of covering up each layer was to make sure that everybody had some money that went into the Karbanis Tzibur. So we needed to cover up the first withdrawal. We covered up the second withdrawal. We made the third withdrawal. There are no more withdrawals. You don't have to cover up the third layer of money. At this point, all the money is now going to become Shiore Halishka, leftovers, for which is a separate halacha. The 3 boxes that we took out, Aleph Beis Gimel, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, 15 days before Shavuos, 15 days before Sukkot. That's the money that's going to pay for the Karbanis for the entire year from Nisan to Nisan, as well as some additional things that we will learn about. Anything that's left over that didn't go into one of those 3 boxes is called Shiore Lishka, the leftover money in the treasury. Now the Mishnah explains why they did this. Why do you have to have these sheets in between each collection? Shema yishkach v'yitro min hadover haTorah. Because if you don't separate this, then the person who goes into the treasury, he can forget or he can make a mistake. If all the money is mixed together, Rosh Chodesh, Nisan money put into the room. Then the money that comes between Pesach and Shavuos just put in the room. The money that comes between Shavuos and Sukkot just put in the room. And it's a whole big mix. You never know if every collection ended up being used, at least partially, for the Karbanis. You'll never know because everything's mixed together. So Mishnah says, Shema yishkach v'yitroi min hadover haTorah, because if you don't use this system, you may end up filling up box 2 from the same money as box 1. Box 1 you filled up from money that came in by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And if you mix all the money, box 2 may also be money that was collected by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and the people who sent money in after that may never get a share in the korban. So that's why they set up this system. Torah Mesarishoyin L'Shem Eretz Yisrael. The first withdrawal that he made on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, he did it in the name of the Jews who live in Eretz Yisrael, because that's the most likely place where this money came from. Ushniya L'Shum Krochem Hamukafim Lo. The second withdrawal, 15 days before Shavuos, was done in the name of the Jewish people who live in cities that are close, very close to Eretz Yisrael. V'hashlishis, and the third withdrawal, 15 days before Sukkot, L'Shum Bovel, U'L'Shum Modai, U'L'Shum Medina Sarchokas. He did it in the name of the Jews who lived in Bovel, Modai, and any other distant countries. And he did this because obviously the third collection would be the latest to come in from Bovel, Modai, and other distant lands. And the second collection would be places that were closer to Eretz Yisrael. They would have reached there between Pesach and Shavuos. And Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the money that's the closest to the Beis HaMikdash. But when the person took off the Truma, he didn't mean to say that what I'm taking off, that when the money he took off Rosh Chodesh Nisan, he didn't mean that this is for the Jews of Eretz Yisrael. As we said, the Karbonos Tzibur have to be brought for every single Jew. What he said was, to fill in the gap, the complete Lashon, when he took off the money, the Maseches Shekalim Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and presumptively that money is from Eretz Yisrael money, that would have gotten there first, everything close to the Beis HaMikdash. He said, Harei zu me Eretz Yisrael, this is money that's collected in Eretz Yisrael, al kol Yisrael, and it should be for all Jews everywhere. When he took off the second Truma, 15 days before Shavuos, he said, Harei zu lemekaymes hasmuchim le'eretz Yisrael, al kol Yisrael. This is money that's being taken for Jews who live near Eretz Yisrael, and it's for all the Jewish people. And when he took off the money the third time, 15 days before Sukkot, he said, this is the money, the Maseches Shekel from Bavel, Madai, and all other countries distant from us where Jews live, al kol Yisrael, and it's for all Jews. So the system remained intact. Every collection is for all of the Jewish people, but we wanted to make sure that all the Jewish people somehow had a share in it. So we didn't mix up the money during the year. Level one is money from Eretz Yisrael for all Jewish people. Between Pesach and Shavuos, you have level two. This is money from the Jews that live near Eretz Yisrael for all Jewish people. And then the third box, 15 days before Sukkot, this is money that came from Chutz La'aretz, Bavel, Madai, from those Jews, and this is also for all of Klal Yisrael. So in this way, we had in mind all of Klal Yisrael, all three withdrawals, and we made sure by using the sheets, the hides in between each collection, that in fact, every single part of every single place where Jews live, there was a collection that was taken, that was used for Karbonos, instead, rather than mixing the money and not knowing, not making sure that everybody had a share in the Karbonos Tzibur. So that's Perek Gimel. Now we get to Perek Daled. What do we do with this money? Rosh Chodesh Nisan, we filled up box Aleph. 15 days before Shavuos, we filled up box Beis. 15 days before Sukkot, we filled up box Gimel, as we mentioned last week. Between Rosh Chodesh Nisan and 15 days before Shavuos is a very short time. They talk about a couple of weeks, not even 2 months. So by the time they made withdrawal 15 days before Shavuos, they still had money in box Aleph. And now they have box Aleph, which still has money in it, plus a full box Beis. You don't go to box Beis money till you finish box Aleph money. The same thing is true 15 days before Sukkot. You don't use box Gimel money until you finish box Bay's money. Okay, so we're spending the money. What are we using this money for? Perek Dalet, page 24, Mishnah Aleph. Hatruma mehoyu oisimba. The Trumas Halishka, there's going to be different levels of withdrawals. We're only learning now about box Aleph, box Bays, and box Gimel. Remember, after box Aleph, box Bays, and box Gimel are taken, there's still plenty of Maseches HaShekel, or there can be plenty of Maseches HaShekel left in the treasury house. That is not Trumas Halishka. That is called Shiyare Trumas Halishka, the leftover of the Trumas Halishka. The Trumas Halishka, these are terms of art, where they're going to be 4 separate terms of art. We're focusing now on the first term of art. There are 4 types of withdrawals that can be made. We are only talking about Trumas Halishka, which is only done 3 times a year. Box Aleph, box Bays, box Gimel. That's Trumas Halishka. What do you do with the money in the 3 boxes? Trumas Halishka. And the Mishnah says, Hacharuma, the Trumas Halishka, Mahoyu Osimbo. What did they do with this money? Lochem bahem tamidim umusafim b'niskein. All the karbonas tamid, the morning carbon tamid every day, the afternoon carbon tamid every day, a carbon musaf, Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos, Yontif, Cholamoyed, Niskeyam, the flour offerings and the wine that had to go with all these karbonas tzibur. These are public offerings. You paid with box Aleph, box Bays, box Gimel, Trumas Halishka. Ha'omer, the Omer, on the 16th day of Nisan, the Omer mincha offering was made out of barley, not wheat. Somebody had to pay for that barley for the Omer offering. It's a public offering on the 16th day of Nisan, the first day Chol HaMoed Pesach for us in Eretz Yisrael. You took out from box number 1. It's the 16th day of Nisan. There's only box number 1, so you take it out of box number 1. Ushtei halechem. On Shavuos, there's a special offering of wheat flour, 2 special breads that were brought in the Beis HaMikdash. It's a public offering on Shavuos. Where did that money come from? It came from the Trumas Halishka. Either box 1, if it still has money in it, this is Shavuos. So box 1 may still have money in it. If box 1 doesn't have money in it, we already have box 2, which was collected 15 days before Shavuos. And throughout the year, flour had to be bought in order to make the 12 challahs every single week. Every single Friday, they baked challah, and they put it on the shulchan on Shabbos, and the bread that was on the shulchan from last week, they took off Shabbos mincha time, and they gave it to the Kohanim to eat. Who was going to pay for all that flour for 12 challahs every week? The Trumas Halishka. The whole karbonas hatzibur, anything that's an offering from the tzibur, you pay from these 3 boxes. What does that include? So, for example, if you look into the Rabbeinu Ovad Mibar Tanura on page 24, in the left-hand column, Perek Dalet, it says, V'chol karbonas hatzibur lasuya kitaris. Who's paying for the ketoras, the incense that has to be burned every morning and afternoon, and on Yom Kippur? Who's paying for that? The Trumas Halishka. And there are other things that they paid for, which are listed in different form, and some of them are machlokes. Atzei hamarocha, who paid for the logs that had to go onto the mizbeach that we learned so much about, the marocha gedola, the marocha of ketores, the marocha eish tamid, who paid for these logs. So sometimes there are cases which we can't get into, the case where people donated wood. But assuming we're not dealing with donations, who paid for all this wood? The Trumas Halishka. Now we have a very interesting case. Shomrei Srichin Bashvius. In the year of Shemitah, things still have to be brought in the Beis HaMikdash. So I'll give you an example. The Omer that's brought on the 16th day of Nisan. It's Shemitah year. No one's planting, nobody's doing anything in their fields. And this Shemitah year, on the 16th day of Nisan, It's a half a year already into Shemitah. Nothing is being planted, nothing's being cut. On the 16th day of Nisan, they have to cut some barley wheat, which we just learned about, and bring the Omer offering on the 16th day of Nisan. Now, where are they getting this barley wheat from? Nobody's planted barley, hopefully. Nobody's cut barley, hopefully. Where are they going to get barley? So the Mishnah says, you have the same problem with the Shtei Alechem on Shavuos. The Shtei Alechem on Shavuos, the two challahs have to be brought from wheat flour, and it's from wheat that grew that year. Just like the barley offering, the Omer that's brought on 16th day of Nisan has to be from barley grown that year. The Shavuos two flour breads have to be brought from flour of wheat from that year, but there's no flour that year. There's no barley that year. Nobody grew, nobody planted, nobody cut. So what do? Beis hired Jewish people to guard certain places in around Yerushalayim, or there has to be a place in Eretz Yisrael where there's some barley and wheat growing. How does barley and wheat grow during Shemitah? This is the complex sugya in Shemitah, in Shavuos, about sficha. Farmers cut their grains in the 6th year. As farmers cut their grains, pieces of grain fall to the ground, seeds fall to the ground, the farmer moves on, he's got his grain, he puts it in the silo, he's going to make flour out of it, everything's fine. But those kernels that inadvertently fall into the ground as he's working the field will pop up during the 7th year. He didn't plant them in the 7th year. They dropped to the ground and they grew. So you have some barley, wheat, you can have other things growing all over Eretz. All these things are called sficha. They fell down as the things were being cut and the field was being worked in the 6th year, and they're popping up. And this is now a problem called sficha. Whatever the problem is, it was planted really inadvertently in the 6th year, you can't cut it in the 7th year. Is it a doraisa? Is it the rabbanan? You have to learn Maseches Shemitah and Maseches Shavuos to even begin to touch the sugya of sficha. So Beis Din would send guards that would be in charge of finding and locating places that have sfichin of barley and places that have sfichin of wheat. Some wheat popped up somewhere and some barley popped up somewhere, and the Beis Din pays guards to watch this barley and watch this wheat, that nobody should cut it, no animal should eat it, because they're going to need this barley for the 16th day of Nisan for the Omer public offering, and they're going to need that wheat for the Shtei Halechem for Shavuos for that public offering. Who pays these guards for watching the barley and the wheat? Box 1, box 2. They're not going to be box 3, because box 3 is not taken off until 15 days before Sukkot, and we're dealing here with 16th day of Nisan and Shavuos. So it may be box 1 or box 2, but the Trumas Halishka is going to pay these guards. So someone will say, yeah, why are we paying guards? I understand if you're paying for animals, for sacrifices, you're paying for ketoras that goes on the Mizbeach. You're paying for the flour that's going to be the Korban Mincha. But if it's Shavuos and you need guards to watch something, how does that come out of Trumas Halishka? Trumas Halishka should be for Korbanos. So here we have a new lesson. Shomrei Svichen B'Shvius, Noitlin Schomer Metrumas Halishka. The guards are paid by the Beis Din through box 1 or box 2, because without these guards, we would not be able to bring the Omer. Without these guards, we wouldn't be able to bring the Shtei Halechem. And therefore, this is called Tzarchei Korban. This is direct necessity in order to be able to bring a korban. When you go buy an animal, you're buying an animal. It's a korban. When you're paying the guards, when you go into the marketplace with money from box 1 to buy flour to bring on the Mizbeach, we have no problem with that. Here we have a chiddush. You're going to pay a guard, to watch the wheat or the barley, so that we have wheat and barley to bring to the Mizbeach. So it's tzorchei korban, and Chachamim held, and that's the halacha, that this money to the guards can be used from the Trumas Halishka. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, you don't have to do it that way. Af harotze misnadev shomachinam. Why, if you want to, maybe you can do it that way. But it's okay if you find people who are willing to donate their time and they're willing to watch the barley or the wheat for free. They want to do people a favor. They want to do Klal Yisrael a favor. They say, listen, instead of taking the money out of Trumas Halishka, why don't you use us? We will watch it for free. That's Rabbi Yossi Shita. The Chachamim do not hold like that for various reasons. The Chachamim hold that you must hire guards. We don't use free guards. One of the reasons that's given, there are different reasons, but the reason that's given is we're worried that Balei Zeroa, aggressive people, at Shemitah, nothing's growing. And Tzvichen was always a problem. It's a problem as the Shavuos because people are looking for Tzvichen. They like Tzvichen. I didn't plant it. It inadvertently fell during the 6th year. And I'm going to cut it in my field and use it. It's great. I have this thing that I didn't plant. It's growing, and I'd like to use it. So Tzvichen were a problem even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, and there was all kinds of issues about how Beis didn't enforce the rules of Tzvichen. So we're worried that if we have free guards, there's like a saying in Masechta Baba Kama, Asya b'magen, magen shavya. A doctor for free is worth what you gave him. In other words, what you get for free is free. Don't expect the greatest service if it's being done for you as a favor for free. Asya b'magen, magen shavya. If you paid nothing, you can expect to get that level of service. So in the same kind of context, when the Beis Din hires guards and the guards are paid, it's now a paid job. So if some aggressive fellas come towards them and say, we want to pick this wheat and barley, these are paid guards. They're going to make sure that these fellas will not be able to take the wheat and the barley, and it'll be ready for use in the Beis Hamikdash. On the other hand, Rabbi Yossi says it's okay, have some free people donate their time. If they're free and donating their time and some aggressive folks come by and say, we're taking that wheat and barley, you may end up seeing people retreating pretty quickly. Look, I'm doing this for free. I'm not getting into a fight. Take whatever you want. So therefore, the Chachamim say, Shoimrei Tzvichen, we're not interested in people donating their time to the Beis HaMikdash. We must have that barley for the Omer on 16 Nisan. We must have that wheat for the Shtei Alechem on Shavuos, and we're going to pay to make sure we have it by paying the guards. Therefore, we don't accept free services, and that's the halacha, and we pay these guards from the Trumas Halishka, and this is what the Chacham said to him. Amrulo, so the Chacham said to Rabbi Yossi, Af ata omer, you also admit she'enam boim ela mishel tzibur, that this, the omer and the Shtei Alechem have to come from money that belongs to the tzibur, and therefore if it has to come from the tzibur is allowed to pay for it, and we don't need the donation. That's how we're reading the Mishnah. It's based on a Gemara in Bava Metzia. The Rav learns the Mishnah a little differently, but that's not really the maskana of the Gemara in Bava Metzia. What else can we do with this money? Mishnah Beis, box 1, box 2, box 3. Now, what we just learned in Mishnah Aleph is something that comes up every year. You're going to have to buy the carbon tamid every day, every afternoon. You're going to have to buy the carbon musaf. You're going to have to buy ketoras. You're going to have to buy the omer. You're going to have to buy the shtel lechem, etc. You're going to have to do this every single year. There are certain things that also additional things that come up every year, and there are things that only come up every so often. Mishnah Beis, para, the para aduma. How often does a para aduma come up? Not very often. The Gemara in Yuma talks about in the history of Klal Yisrael how many para adumas were brought. So it comes from Mishnah and Para. The Gemara in Yuma and Daf Tes brings it down. Moshe Rabbeinu made the first para aduma, and then it took quite a while until they needed a second para aduma. It's a huge cow. A tremendous amount of ash is produced, and it can be used for a very, very long time. So when you do need a para aduma, you take the money out of Aleph, Beis, or Gimel, those boxes. You can use the Trumas Halishka. V'soyer hamishtaleach, the goat that's sent out on Yom Kippur to be thrown off the cliff. Now here the chiddush is this is not a korban. This is not an animal that's brought on the Mizbeach. Nevertheless, there's a reason why we can pay for this Sorah Mishtalech from the Trumas Halishka, and that's because when the two goats are bought before Yom Kippur, we don't know which one is going to go on the two goats, right? One goat is a korban chatas that goes on the Mizbeach, upon which the Kohen said vidui for all of Klal Yisrael, and the other goat is going to go out of the Beis HaMikdash and be thrown off a cliff, the Sorah Mishtalech. When the two of them are bought, we don't know which one is which. Until on Yom Kippur, the Kohen pulls the two golden plates out and puts one on the animal to his, the goat to his right, and one on the goat to his left. And hopefully the one on the right, the plate says Lashem, and the one on the left says Lazazel. But until that moment, we don't know which is the korban and which is going off the cliff. So therefore, the person goes into the marketplace and is permitted to buy both goats with money from the Trumas Halishka. Veloshin shel zahiris, the Loshin shel zahiris, and here there's a question. Loshin zahiris is a red strand, a red thread. The question about this Loshin shel zahiris is which Loshin of zahiris are we talking about? There are two paras in this Mishnah. There's two animals that were just discussed. The para aduma, which has a red thread. When they burn the para aduma on Har Hazesim, which we learned about a bit in Masechta Midos, when they burnt the para aduma on Har HaMishra, Har Hazesim, into the fire they put a red thread amongst other things. So there's a red thread needed for the para aduma. By the same token, the next word in the Mishnah was Sorah HaMishtalech, the goat that you send out to be thrown off a cliff. We all know that on Yom Kippur there was a thread on that goat as well, and part of a thread in the Beis HaMikdash, a red thread. And after the goat was thrown off the cliff, that red thread turned white. So there's a red thread that's involved with Para Aduma. There's a red thread that's involved with the goat La'azazel. Which red thread are we talking about here? So the Mishnah says, Beis, Para, the Para Aduma comes from the Trumas Halishka. Sorah HaMishtalech, the goat that's thrown off the cliff comes from the Trumas Halishka. You have to buy that goat. Veloshin shel zahiris, and you have to buy this strand of red, this red thread. You pay from the Trumas Halishka, but which red thread? So if you take a look in your Rav, on the right-hand column of your page, Loshin shel zahiris, Shni tolas, the red thread, shemashlichin el tosreifas hapora, that you throw in with the para aduma. That's the one that's paid from Trumas Halishka. The red thread that's used on Yom Kippur with the soil azazel was not paid from the Trumas Halishka, it was paid from other money. Para v'sorah mishtalech loshin shel zahiris bo'in v'trumas halishka. And that's the cases we have. So if you go back to page 24 and the chart, at the bottom of the page there's a chart. What can I pay for from the Trumas Halishka? Box 1, box 2, box 3. What can I use it for? Aleph, Tamidim umusaf niskayim. Korban Tomid, Korban Musaf, the flour offering, and the wine and the oil that went into the flour. Beis, Ha'omer, for the 16th of Nisan, Shtei Alechem for Shavuos, V'lechem Aponim for every Shabbos. Ketores, the Rav adds the case of Ketores, who read the Rav. Big Day Kahuna, we've not seen that, but that's the Teferes Yisrael adds Big Day Kahuna, is paid from the Trumas Halishka. 4. Schar Shoymrei Srichem L'Tzeirech Ha'omer U'Shtei Halechem. You can pay the guards who watch the wheat and the barley that's growing from the sfichim that were growing inadvertently. Halacha kechacham. We pass like the chachamim. We hire the people, not like Reb Yossi, who says you can get free shomer. That was Mishnah Aleph. What else can you take? Can you buy from box 1, 2, and 3? Next line. Parah aduma. Lashon shel zaharis, the red thread that goes with the parah aduma. Eitz erez, the piece of wood that came with the parah aduma that was burnt with the parah aduma. The azo, and the special kind of grass that was burnt with the parah aduma. All those things can be bought from box 1, 2, or 3. Vav, 6, Sar Mishtalech, the goat that's thrown off the cliff for Yom Kippur. Those are the things that you can use from box 1, box 2, box 3. And for example, parah aduma is not going to come up every year. And the things that go with the parah aduma obviously won't come up every year. All the other things will come up every year, except again, the shomrim only come up every 7 years. To pay the shomrim is only Shemitah year. So most of the things happen every year. Parah aduma doesn't happen every year. And the watchman for the Sfichim only comes up during Shemitah. Back to Mishnah Beis. Kevesh Parah. You're looking at picture 30. It should be a familiar picture to you. We learned about that picture in Maseches Midos. We said, how many gates? Let's do this quick review. How many gates are there to the Har Habayis? 5. Yes, the Trumas Halishka pays for the other goat as well. The other goat is going to go on the Mizbeach, so it's a regular Korban Sibur. Every Korban Sibur is paid for by the Trumas Halishka. The Chiddush is the Soyer HaMishtaleach is not going to go on the Mizbeach. It's going to be thrown off a cliff. Nevertheless, you pay for it from the Trumas Halishka. Picture 30. 5 gates to get into the Har Habayis. The eastern gate, Shushan Habira. The southern gate, 2 of them, Shari Chulda. The northern gate, 1, Teddy. The western gate, 1, Kipunus. The Shushan Habira gate to the east had a bridge that went from the eastern Shushan Habira gate all the way to Har HaZeisim, Har HaMishna, and they built that bridge so when they would need to bring a parah aduma to the Har HaMishna, first the parah aduma went to the Beis HaMikdash to be inspected by the Sanhedrin to make sure it's a kosher parah aduma, and then the Kohen, the Gadol, the way we paskin, and all his assistants would take the parah aduma out of the Shushan Habira gate and take it to be burned on Har HaMishna, on Har HaZeisim. They built a bridge by looking at, the bridge looked like a double bridge, picture 30. We learned about this in Masechta Midos. If you take a look at picture 31, you'll understand why. A quick review of what we learned. There's something called a tumah ritzutza. Tumah ritzutza means tumah that's compressed. A grave that doesn't have 4 tefachim above it, between the mace and the top of the kever, there's not a tefach. Tefach may be 4 or 5 inches, whatever it is. If the mace is so close to the ground, then that's called a tumah ritzutza. The tumah is compressed. There's nowhere for the tumah to release itself to. And the Tumah Retzutza is Bokas Ad L'Shamayim. Tumah Retzutza goes up all the way to heaven. So anybody that walks over that kever, and anything that goes over that kever has become Tumah. So they had to build a system of double bridges for something called Kever HaTahom. Sometimes bodies are buried in places that we don't know about. People bury bodies. Could be they bury the body there intentionally. They don't tell anybody. Could be it was a mace mitzvah. Le'aleinu, someone died on the road. He has no family to bury him. And the mitzvah is to bury him where you find him. So somewhere between the eastern gate, the Shar of Shushan Abira, and Har HaZeisim, there's a body buried there. So if there's a bridge, if you take a look at picture 31 Aleph, they're showing you beneath the ground, there's a kever. If you build only one bridge, and that kever is within a tefach of the ground, that tumah is going to go all the way up to heaven. And when the Kohen Gadol walks across the bridge with the paraduma, he's going to become tameh, and he's going to end up burning the paraduma while he's tameh. He doesn't even know it. But that tumah, that burial, that body that's under the ground, that tumah is going to go all the way up. It's compressed tumah. It doesn't have a tefach to release itself, and it's going to go all the way up. Now take a look at 31 bays. They build a double arch system. So now they're showing you two graves. The first grave has the solid, the grave that's to the right. Above the grave is a solid wall. But then the solid wall goes to an opening. That tumah now is released in that opening, and a person that walks above there will not become tameh. Go to the left body, the left kever. The left kever is right underneath the opening, so it will be released there. Whereas if you build arch upon arch and opening upon opening, so if a body is buried under the opening, that's fine. But if a body is buried under the arch, the tumah will go up. On top of the first arch is a second arch, and the tumah will still go up. It has nowhere to release itself. So therefore, they built it like 31 bays, or you're looking at back on page 25, 30. It's a double bridge. Har HaBayis, the Shushan Habira, to Har HaMishcha, Har HaZeisim. The Kohen and the Paraduma are on top of the bridge. And no matter where there's a body in the ground, the body is not going to compress the tumah and go up, because if the body is under the wall at the lower level, it goes up to an opening in the arch at the upper level. If the body is under the opening at the bottom level, no problem at all. So that's why they built it that way. Who pays for that? That's a big bridge to build. Kevesh Pora, the ramp, the bridge for the Pora Aduma to take it from Shushan Habira through until Har HaZeisim. The Kevesh Sor HaMishtalech, and they also built a bridge for the Sor HaMishtalech when they had to take the goat out of the Beis HaMikdash and out of Yerushalayim to throw off the cliff. They also had a bridge. The Loshen Shebein Karnov, and the thread of the red thread that was put between the horns of the Sor Lazar. So you can look at look at picture 33. That Sor is going to be thrown off the cliff with the red thread. Part of the red thread will be taken off. That's Masech Yuma. But who pays for that red thread? The Amas Hamayim. We know that in the Beis HaMikdash, right near the Mizbeach, there was a little waterway, and blood from karbonis that was spilled on the foundation of the Mizbeach went into this waterway. That waterway had to be maintained, had to be cleaned. Who paid for it? Choma Seir, the wall around Yerushalayim. Who paid for its upkeep? Umigdal Oseh, its ramparts or its watchtowers. Who paid for the upkeep of that? V'chol tzarchei ha'ir, and all other needs of the city of Yerushalayim, digging wells, etc. Who paid for that? Bo'im. Now we have our second term of art. Mishiyore halishka. In Mishnah Aleph and the beginning of Mishnah Beis, we had the term of art called Trumas Halishka. Box Aleph, Box Beis, Box Gimel. The last things we learned about is now Trumas Halishka. The leftover money after Aleph, after Beis, and after Box Gimel are taken and used for their purposes as shown on chart 7, page 24. There's leftover money in the room. What do you use that leftover money for? So that leftover money is used for the ramp of the Paraduma, the ramp of the Sar Mishtaleh, the red thread that grows on the Sar Mishtaleh, maintaining the waterway in the Beis HaMikdash, the wall of Yerushalayim, the digging wells in Yerushalayim. All these things now came. Mishiyore Halishka. So Rabbi Sainayin, this came from the leftover money. So now we have two terms of art for withdrawals. One is Trumas Halishka, and one is Shiyore Halishka. Trumas Halishka means leftover. I'm sorry, Trumas Halishka means box 1, box 2, box 3. After box 1, box 2, and box 3 are taken out at the appropriate times, the leftover is called Shiyore Halishka, and you can spend that Shiyore Halishka on certain things. Trumas Halishka has the things that it's spent on, box 1, box 2, box 3. Shiyore Halishka, what's left over after box 1, box 2, and box 3 are withdrawn. It's called Shiyore Halishka, and you can use that money for other things. Abba Shaul has a very interesting sheet here. Kevesh Porah. The bridge that's used from the Beis Hamikdash, Shushan Habira, to Har Hazesim, to take the Porah Aduma there to be burned, you don't pay for that from the Shiore Halishka. That's what we just learned. The first opinion of Mishnah was that the Kevesh Porah, the bridge for the Porah Aduma, you pay from the leftover in the treasury. Abba Shaul says no. Kevesh Porah, the ramp, the bridge for the Porah Aduma, Kohanim Gedolim Osen Osa Misha Atzma. The Kohen Gadol, whoever the Kohen Gadol is at that time, and they need to burn a new Porah Aduma. The Kohen Gadol pays it out of his own personal money. He pays for the building of this bridge. Now, Allah is not like Abba Shaul. I have checked several svarim to even find out. I have to check the Yerushalmi to see what is Abba Shaul's logic. Why does Abba Shaul hold that the Kohen Gadol should pay for the bridge that connects the Har Habayis that connects the Beis Hamikdash to the Har Hazesim to burn the Porah Aduma? Why is that money he needs to pay for? He doesn't say that, for example, that's one question. Why should the Kohen Gadol pay for that if he's burning a Porah Aduma for all of the Jewish people? The second question is, there's a second ramp that was built, and that was for the goat that was taken out of Yerushalayim on Yom Kippur. He doesn't say the Kohen Gadol pays for that. That he agrees that comes out of Shiore Halishka. So, B'lineda, I'll take a further look. If I find a reason, I'll bring it to your attention. That is Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah Beis. Mishnah Aleph and Mishnah Beis, Perek Dalet, talked about Trumas Halishka, Box Aleph, Box Beis, Box Gimel, Box Aleph, Rosh Chodesh, Nisan, Box Beis, 15 days before Shavuos, Box Gimel, 15 days before Sukkot. And what can you spend Box Aleph, Box Beis, Box Gimel on? Page 24, chart 7. What can you do with the leftover money? The leftover money is called Shiore Halishka. The Shiore Halishka you can use for those things enumerated in the Mishnah, and that's page 25, chart 8. Gives you a list of the things that you can use with the Shiore Halishka. B'lineda tomorrow, we're going to go into the third term of Ad. You see Mishnah Gimel, Mosar Shiore Halishka. Third type of money. The leftover of the leftover in the treasury. So far we have box 1, box 2, box 3, Trumas Halishka. We have also Shiore Lishka, what's left over after box 1, box 2, box 3. And now we're going to have Mosa Shiore Halishka, the leftovers of even the Shiore Halishka. We already paid for the bridges. We already paid for maintaining the waterway in the Beis Hamikdash. We maintained the wall of the Yerushalayim. We built as many wells as we need in Yerushalayim. And there's still money in the treasury room. That is now called Mosar Shiore Halishka. And that'll be the third term of Ad Nebli Neder we will learn about tomorrow.